All right, next question. This is for the student body president candidates. If you, when you will, because you will, have an opportunity to stand before the board of trustees, what would you love to say about your peers to them?
Can I go first?
Yeah, I'll go back, start with you.
Okay. I think one thing that I would love to say about my peers is that they are on fire for Christ and that they're on fire for Cornerstone. I would love to say that. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's one thing that I would love to say, and that's one thing I think that can change and that needs to change. I would love to say that students are engaged, that freshmen come in and want to get involved, you know, that people stay involved even into their senior year, as Ethan and I are trying to do and will do. That's what I would love to say to them. I want them to know that students love this university, and they love Jesus Christ, and they love to serve. That's what I would love to say.
First of all, I would love to say that, like Savvy, there is something big going on at Cornerstone. I had a friend who has actually decided to come to Cornerstone after staying here, and he wants to get into the music program here, but also because he's looking at colleges, he went down the street to one of the colleges and left the chapel during the chapel to come to our chapel, because even the chapel, regardless of your preference of genre, was incredibly more infused with the Spirit, and that's his words. Maybe not incredibly, but that was my word. And I want to encourage them to say to keep going and striving to provide the best education that we can, because I know that the class he attended that day as well, he kind of came out was like kind of starstruck in an educational kind of way, because he was like he was just astounded at the amount of intellectuality that the professor had and was trying to pass on to us. I also would want to say that we are really, really hungry for people in power to listen to us more, because I know that's something that I want. I want to be able to present ideas, disagreements to them, and I'm not afraid to, because I know that in the end it's going to provide a good result. But I want them to know that, so they'll start coming to us about possible disagreements, to CUSG, and in turn we'd be talking to them about what your voice is as well, and that's something that I really have a passion about, and I'll probably end up talking about that more later, so I'll pass on.
I'd love to say thank you for lowering tuition. That'd be really sweet. No, I would love to say, to be able to represent Cornerstone students and say, this is not just me in an elected position trying to put my 20, 25 hours in a week to do my job, but to say that students are united and passionate about issues, whether that's something just like of the sustainability of the baseball field, or if it's something like the justice and injustice of human trafficking and issues like that. I would love to see students not just mention it in the community showers, but to actually feel like they had a voice to be heard, that they would unite and do something about it. And I would love to just be blown away that it's not hard to do the job of president, but it's hard to keep students quiet. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Great. This is going to be a question for everyone, and I'm going to start with Devin and head that direction for this one. How would you like to shift, or where would you like to allocate student government funding?
Student government what?
Funding, because you guys do have a budget. That too.
That's a good question. I think a big part of it, gosh, I just can't think of how much money it costs to run, like, the main vision that I have with CUSG, just like the focus of student participation, like bringing students on board. I really don't see how you can refund that money. I guess like buying pizzas to have more meetings or that kind of thing, like draws to bring people in. Because I understand the college environment, like you're not going to be like having time all the time, but we have very few CUSG meetings where it's just like a general audience, just come and ask questions of the president, the vice president, that kind of thing. And that's understandable because we do have really busy schedules in college generally. But at the same time, I would like that kind of thing more. I think that's the main focus. If we can change the way students don't feel like they have a voice, to make it so that more students are talking, more students are participating with student government, then I think that would be that'd fix a ton of problems. That would allow for the steps to fix a ton of problems at Cornerstone. But I think really the money, I don't know. I think really just using the money in a way that would engage that culture, bring people in, entice them, just encourage them to come in. Like, you can go to dinner and talk with everyone, or you can come out here and have pizza for free with CUSG and just ask us questions, that kind of thing. Because, I mean, other things are great. I think justice issues are awesome. But the main focus of CUSG needs to be getting the students connected to the faculty and faculty connected to the students. So anything to encourage that, I think that's where the money should be going.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I think it's a pretty simple answer where the funding should shift, and that means the funding should go where the students want it to go. Student government is not here to allocate the money to different things because we think it should go here, we think it should go here. Now, with the whole recycling thing, I think it's a different case. We need to take care of recycling this year. That is a big, big push. And so if we need money to go into that, I think the funding needs to shift to that because we need to get it over to administration. But as far as shifting all these other funds, the money should go where the students want it to go. And as I said before, communication is going to be one thing I'm pushing, big time. Meaning, when student government is transparent, and we are totally open with you guys, and when we have somebody from student government up in spiritual formation every hour between 9 and 4, so that you can come talk to us and tell us your thoughts and opinions of where this money should go, or where our focus should go, or whatever. When that communication is clear, we'll know where the funding should go. Right now, we just don't know where it should go because communication is not clear. Right now, I think student government is deciding where the money should go, which isn't a horrible thing because we do have some wise leaders in charge of our finances. But most importantly, student government exists for the students. We need to stress students, 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 not government. So the funding is going to go exactly where the students want it to go.
Tim, hold on. Since Tim said that you were kind of directly pushing back against what Devin said, do you want to give a rebuttal, Devin, to that statement?
I guess I agree with that. I didn't really think along that lines, but that's a good point. I guess if the student government is transparent, is making those meetings, then the obvious, I don't know exactly the finances. I'm not in that thing, so I'm not watching what Ben's doing. He's doing a great job. I do know that, though. But I'm not watching that kind of thing, so I don't know how much money they're throwing around, how much extra money they have for that. So, I mean, yeah, if you have an extra $300 here or there to do that kind of thing, where it's like we can directly promote it, promote whatever you're needing, that's great. But since I don't know, I didn't really want to make a comment. I don't want to make campaign promises, that kind of thing that I can't keep. So if I had more education on that issue, then I would definitely address it more. But since I don't, I just, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the vice president of finances. And so I'll kind of try to give you a reality look at what it looks like. The majority of our funds, we do not have a large budget. We're very frugal. We try to be. I hate to put you on the spot, Mike, but Mike said he had heard that we had a $32,000 surplus. I wish we had 32,000. Yeah.
It's bad when Chip Huber's laughing.
I had a dream once that I had $32,000, and I woke up and the envelope of my tuition bill was sitting there, and
More every weekend.
No, well, thankfully, student activities funds more They do an awesome job. But what our budget kind of looks like is the majority, I think it's like 65% of it this year goes towards student organizations. We have 14 or 15 student organizations on campus, ACTS, 737, KTG, other organizations like that. And that's one of student government's biggest thing, is that if you have an interest, we want to be able to connect you with other people and allow you to pursue that. So that money is spent on events, whether it's something in the quorum here, you need sound equipment or something. It's spent on meetings. If you need to buy food or something, it's spent on getting speakers in, on going to conferences, and various other things. That's all something that they apply, put a budget in, and then I make suggestions to the executive council, and they approve or deny it. Besides organizations, we break the money down then into advertising for CUSG, if we do a game, if we hand out flyers, if we do a full form, things like that. Sustainability, we set some money aside. Now, actually, this year, we're not having to spend a whole bunch of money on that, because Mark Fowler, in charge of operations, he was really gracious and gave us some money to do some stuff with that. Now, I know last year we spent a lot more money because we were making initiating the process and whatnot. Then the last part of, another part of the budget is student senators. We try to take care of these guys, spend money on whatever they do. I think it was last year, I can't even remember. Yeah, it was. I was a student senator, and I was able to do some different things that I needed money for, so we spend money on that. Then the last part of the budget is saved, if we have money left over at this point, on anything that we feel students are passionate about. So last year that was sustainability. They did a great job with that. This year we're pushing for some justice issues that should be coming up later this semester. And the idea is, and I think this is something that we really want to pursue next year, is to really get a feel for the campus, and that we have some money set aside to do whatever interests the community. Now, that is a very long explanation. One thing that I would like to spend a little bit more money on is not just each organization as their own little island, but bringing them together. Then you have a larger pull and more diversity with, say, the philosophy organization, working with 737, working with ACTS, doing social justice, working together and becoming more of a close-knit community and having a bigger influence. Sorry it took so long.
That was very informal, so I'm glad you did that. First off, I'm so glad that there is somebody like Ben's position, because I just don't do numbers. It's not my favorite. But one thing I know that we need to do is be very, very careful where we put our money. We cannot be wasteful, because we only have a certain amount each year, and we want to be able to, like I said earlier, be good stewards with our money. That was what I had to learn last summer with my money. I had to be a good steward with it. I did not have a good experience with that. Again, I hate numbers, but I do like the idea of taking care of the organizations, thank you, on campus, because not only is it a way to an opportunity to have community with those that have the same passions as you, but it's also an opportunity that I want to grow even more, to have community with other organizations, to create a better community all around on campus. Sorry, I'm throwing community so much, and sorry if it gets repetitive, but yeah, I'm an RA in Quincer, and we have a lot of community there, so I just said a Quincer joke. I promised myself I wasn't going to. But that's something that I really want to see, and I'm glad that student activities does put on things like more, because I know that I like doing those things, and I know that I want more money to go to that, but that's not our responsibility. First is to take care of the organizations that rely on us for that money, and it's also, I mean, those people are you, because you guys are the organizations, and so basically you guys are getting the money as well. I know that I do have more opinions on that, but I won't go into that at this moment, but I think that is probably the best way we can spend our money. And I also like the idea of saving, because that's something I also learned this summer personally. It's so important to save and be ready for anything in the future. And I like that we have saved in the past for especially the recycling program. That's really great. I think that is very smart and something that we have to continue doing, maybe even on a little slightly larger scale, putting as much money as we can. So, yeah, Savvy.
I pretty much agree with both of you. Good answers. I mean, the answer is very simple. Every dime needs to go back to the students. That's the reason why we get that money, to go back to the students. And I think with that, since a large portion of our money goes to organizations, is making sure we are holding them accountable in the ways that they do spend their money. I mean, because the organizations are there to serve you, the student body, and not just in their own little organization circles. They're there to serve you, the student body. And so I think CUSG needs to make sure that they do that, and that every dime that they're spending goes towards the student body. And I think just being careful about the certain expenses that we have, because it can get real shady sometimes. So, I mean, we just got to be really careful in the way that we do spend our money, because, I mean, all of it needs to go back to you, and if it's not going back to you, then what's the point of us even having the money in the first place? So.
So, you got something on your... Wait.
Keep going.
Poor thing. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question again to both of you as a group, but it's going to be a little context sensitive to both of you guys. So, and this actually wasn't on my list, but I'm kind of pulling an audible, so I'm sorry, Ashley. Student body president, supposed to be the voice of the student body to the administration. So I want to kind of like have you as the candidates allow us to kind of get inside your head. When you look at an issue like, say, married housing, and you're supposed to be a representative of your peers, how do you go about addressing that particular issue in a student body? And then sort of for the VPs to kind of like contextualize it for you guys, how do you go about creating legislation that represents the views of your peers, again, as the student body in regards to housing? And the reason that I pick housing is that's something that came up this year that is very relevant to kind of help you guys engage with what their jobs are supposed to be.
I think if a big issue like that comes up, I think we need to gauge the students and see how they feel about it first. I have my own opinions about it, but my opinions are not the students' opinions. And if I'm supposed to be an advocate for the student body, then I need to understand how you all feel about it. And so I think one thing with that is you really need to gauge the students and see how they feel overall about it. And you always have someone who's far left or far right, and I mean, you have people who just don't care, and then you have people who are opinionated about it, and so you have to really gauge that and get around that and just see how people feel with that, and then take that to administration, because the president especially is the advocating voice for the student body, but then how can that president advocate if he doesn't know how the students feel? And so I think that is a huge, huge deal, and one thing that really needs to change is that the president needs to be approachable and accessible. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. The president needs to be approachable and accessible by all students. So if any student had a question or a concern about anything, they should be able to feel like they can go talk to the president about this. And the president should then take that to the executive council or to administration or to anyone else who can help solve that problem.
Yeah, I am totally on board with what Savvy said, and I completely agree. It starts with your guys' voice, and we'll meet you there. You know, that's our job, to meet you where you are at and to ask questions. But we also need you guys to make sure you voice your opinion, and I hope that whoever you elect you feel is best, the most approachable and the best well-receiving news, any kind of news. Because something that you need in a president is somebody who can fight for you. And somebody who's fearless, that will respect the authority, obviously. That's a big value that you need to have as a president. But somebody who's going to fight for you and say what needs to be said and take the consequences if there are some. I hope there wouldn't be. But and furthermore, I think that having connection between the executive board, the legislature, it's important that we have regular meetings, forums, parties, whatever it may be, I don't know, with the students in the dorms, those coming from houses, maybe even going to an ice cream shop or something and meeting there. It's the commuters, that's the people coming from homes, if you didn't catch that. We need to have everybody plugged in somewhere. And you know what? Something that I want to see is the executive board being just like the legislature and meeting people in the dorms and the commuters. I've talked to so many people that are like, wait, who's the executive board? I don't know. But I can't fathom that and as being a president, and I can't fathom not being known, or anybody who is running the student government being not known. It shocks me, and I want that to change. I want this job to be about serving you guys, and we can't do that if we don't know you and we don't hear your voice. So I want something. We'll set up something monthly, bi-monthly, bi-weekly, something. That we can try to do, and I know that the senators are a huge part in that, and so I'm really pushing for a great Senate next year as your elected president. So I'll give it off to Ben. So
I think one of the misconceptions we have sometimes is that faculty and spiritual formations and administration is making these decisions, and we're like, oh, they're trying to oppress us and stuff like that. I talked to Gerald Long John. It was either today or yesterday. When I came back from Israel, like, I'm in this dream world right now. I can't keep track of my days anymore. But I talked to him, and I asked him, I'm like, I know what I think student government is, but what do you think student government is? And he kind of gave me context, how the board works a little bit, and people's roles. And Rick Ostrander's responsibility is to represent the faculty, to get their goals, dreams, ideas out there. And Gerald Longjohn is to represent the students, and along with all of spiritual formation, Christine and Chip and so on. And so student government is a big part in seeing the overall picture. There's awesome RAs who are able to see what's going on in a specific location. And student government's job is kind of the whole picture, and to give that advice to Gerald so that he can represent us properly. Now, do you guys all, just like shake your head yes or no, know what happened with the married housing issue? Okay, I'm getting a fair amount of no's. So I'll try to make it briefly. Explain that. What
Very
happens?
Brief. Very brief. Very brief.
Very brief. All right. What happens is, Cornerstone is having you guys as students so that you can be donors later, so then we have lots of money. Just to let you guys know. So right now, we're trying to manage our money very well and spend it wisely. So what we do for getting new dorms is we try to fill a dorm before we build it, and that ensures that we can pay for it. So how that happens is we have places like married housing, which convert back and forth between being married housing and residential dorms. And so we put the people that are going to go into the new dorms into these places like married housing when we start to get overpopulated. So we're at that point right now, and added onto the baseball field is going to be the new dorm buildings. All right, and so many of the students' concerns was they're kicking me off campus. I'm going to lose my pastoral scholarship because you only can have it if you live on campus. And so I think Spiritual Formations did a phenomenal job of explaining that. They wrote up a letter, sent it to each person who it directly affected, and then put it on our website. But of letting them know that we're going to take care of you. No one who had to move out of married housing lost their scholarship. They're still going to get it next year. We're not trying to penalize anyone, but that's just part of being financially responsible. So I think issues like that is very key when there's students with legitimate concerns, and administration needs to hear that and address that, and I think it is done very well in married housing situation.
Yeah. I guess I got two quick things. First is, if you guys have a concern, like married housing, or an issue like that, whatever, I could promise you one thing. I'm gonna address it with humility and optimism and a lot of drive, especially if I believe in what you're saying. I am at my best when I'm standing up for something that I believe is right or something that you believe is right, even if it puts us at the minority. And so that's the first thing I want to say is even if it puts us at the minority, I am at my best when I'm trying to influence people to do something that's right. Integrity is very important to me, and so is transparency. So we're going to be open about that. I'm going to address all that with humility. So that's the second thing. Third thing that I just decided to add real quick is if we do address these things, in this whole idea of making student government more open, more transparent to students, opening up communication better, as far as us being the liaison between students and administration, if you want us to stand up for an issue like married housing or whatever, I would love to stand up for that. I'm sure any of these guys would too. But as a part of opening all this up to the students, this is student government after all, I would like to push for you guys even coming with us to administration, telling them your story. A story can make a big impact. A story can have a huge influence. And that face-to-face interaction between you guys and administration can be a big, big deal. So if you want to come with us to administration, I'm going to push for that. I don't know what it's like approaching administration. I've never been in that high level of student government before, but I'm going to push for that because that's part of the openness of student government. You guys are a part of this just as much as we are. We're all at the same level.
So anyone that knows me knows that I like a good argument, whether I agree with you or not. I love to argue. I love to debate. I love that kind of atmosphere. So I was a student senator first semester, and this came up, I guess, second semester, and one of the guys that was kind of like running the whole kind of student-led protest idea, he came up to me and he just kind of explained the situation, and I thought it was an awesome thing to be advocated for. Whether I agreed with married housing or like the whole issue or not, I didn't really have all the information, so I was just like, okay, I hear your concern, and I'd love to walk around it and talk with people with you. And so it was really interesting to go through that. We collected signatures, just saying that we would like to keep married housing on campus and put our voice there. So I thought that was really interesting for on this saving married housing idea. I saw the issue, and I talked to more students and saw that it was not just one person, but that it was many people. I think he got just over 100 signatures and stuff. So it was interesting to see that, and I got to, as a student senator or whatever I was at that point, just talk to him and talk to other people and advocate for him. So I think that's a key. Savion said something about this earlier, but as a student government role, I don't think that my position would be to make judgment decisions or to filter stuff out, but simply whether I agree with you or not, to take it into consideration and give it the same power and effort and time that it is needed to really figure out what the best situation is for that and connect it to the right people.